them. So let's start off by going into my FileHold system. So let's just go ahead and bring open our FileHold here. So you should be seeing my FileHold interface on screen. We're going to start off with sort of leaving off where we were before, which was when we've already run a search. So let's assume that we've looked for a value. We're just in our basic search mode here, and I'm going to type something in. So go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we've now executed our search, and all our results appear on screen. So because we're doing our simple search, remember we've looked at all of our file in the file text, and we've also looked in the metadata in order to come up with our results. Now, this could be a search that I want to run every single day. Maybe every day I come here and I want to look for this one term, and I want to find these documents together. Now, it's not that it's difficult to go in there and type in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but my objective is always try to get people to reduce the number of clicks that they're doing. So for example, if you always wanted to include the archive into that search, we could include the archive here, hit the save button, that saves my settings, and now I never have to do that again. I never have to go in and click that search box because I'm automatically bringing those that archive into the search. Let me just undo that so I can resave those changes. So my goal is to always try to get people to get to the information that they need the fastest way. And that's where a save search is most effective. Now, in order to save a search, the first thing we have to do is actually run the search. So we don't start with a save. We don't put our terms in, save it, and then run it. We always run the search and then save it. It's an important part of the details as we're working through. So now that I've run this search, I can click on Save as Save Search, and then I have the option of saving this. Now, I'm saving this as my own personal search. You can see over here on the side, I've got my save searches and public save searches. So we have two different sort of categories that we can put these in. Anybody who's an administrator should be able to make a public save search. And let's touch on that in a moment. Let's just talk about the basic mechanics first. And so we're going to make this a new save search, and I'm going to make this the simplest thing I can, which I'm just going to enter literally my search term into that, and we're going to say OK. So now we can see that same search is over here saved in the My Save Searches category. Here's what that means. Now I'm in the inbox. I'm not in the search mode. So let's just go ahead and click over in our inbox. So again, we're not dealing with anything search. When I come over here to click the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we've immediately run the search. It's instantly run, and we get all our results exactly like we did before. All I've done is I've preloaded my conditions. Now, what I've just given you here is an example of a very primitive save search, but it gives you a taste of what you could do with this. Let's get to something a bit more specific. Let's say that instead of searching the entire system for that, there's a particular value I want to search for. So I want to take advantage of my advanced search mode here. I'm going to go over to my terms, and I'm going to change this down to my common metadata fields, and I'm going to scroll down until I get to my PO number. So now we're going to choose our PO number, and we're going to run that search again. So there's our search results. So now I'm going to take this, and I'm going to save as save search again. I'm going to select that first search I did, and this time we're going to overwrite the selected save search. So you can see when I clicked that, it gave me the option to overwrite the search. So I can't change the name of it. That's okay, don't need to. But that's good enough now for me to make that our new save search condition. So now if I was looking for all PO documents that have a PO number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, regardless of what schema they were, this will run that search for me. And I can hop back over here to the inbox. And again, we'll run that again. So I'm going to click that, and you can see it's updated that search. So we're not just making one search, then I have to resave it later on. I can refine these as I go. I can make these more exact. Now let's say, and let's do something logical here, that instead of just searching for one single PO number, I need to do PO number searches. So what I want is I want this, but I want it to be empty for me. I want to have this pre-selected, the PO number. Maybe there's a condition onto this, such as I'm looking for a range of information, or I'm looking for a greater than or less than statement. In this case, I'm just going to stick with equals because I want to find something exact. So we're going to save this search again because we've just run it. So we're going to save as a save search, and we're going to make ourselves a new search, and we're going to call this PO search. So just simple PO, I'm looking for a PO number. So in fact, let's get even more specific with this. I'm going to put PO with a number sign on top of that. And now I'm going to ask to make this save search empty. That means that all of my values that I put into this last field, into my criteria field over here, I'm now leaving blank. So when I save this, it means that that field is going to be empty, and I can absolutely find what I want. So the criteria value will be blanked out. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to save that. And now we'll see we've got our PO number search up here. So let's go back over to our inbox. And I'm only doing this to show you that I'm not in any sort of search mode. I click PO number search, and there we are. And now I can add my value into this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And there's my search term that's been run. Now again, that's a useful thing. But let's think about this in a greater context. Let's say that instead of having one operator, I might want to have several lines onto this. I might want to have several statements that I'm doing as a search. I'll give you an example of that. Let's say that I need to look for certain documents on a weekly basis to make sure that nothing hasn't been or nothing's been forgotten through a workflow. So I'm going to look for invoices that have not been submitted for an approval process, for a workflow process, in the last 30 days. So we can be very specific with this. So we're going to start building this out. So we're going to say that this time we're going to look for, instead of a common metadata field, we're going to say, show me all documents that are invoices that have not gone through. So we're going to choose approval status, and then under this we're going to choose that have not been submitted for approval. So we're identifying the ones that have yet to go through a workflow. And then we're going to put a time onto that. And we're going to say from the creation dates when they've been added into the software and no older than 7 days before now. So this is the kind of thing you might do on a Monday morning. Did somebody put an invoice in last week that I didn't know about? I've got my cup of coffee. I want to do this search. I just want to find it quickly. So multiple selections into this, and now we're ready to do our search. So we're going to, again, run our search. So no documents found in the last 7 days. That's perfect. Now, what you might be asking, what if I have no documents like that at all? Do I have any documents that have not been submitted for approval in the last 90 days? No, I don't. So that's an additional level of check that I could do. So we're going to put this back to 7, run the search again, no search results. That's perfectly valid because it means that I have no documents that meet that criteria. And now we're going to save this as a save search. And we're going to say new POs in last week without workflow, right? Something simple. This is for me. This isn't for everybody else. This is just something that I want to see in my system, and I'm going to say okay. And there's my search right there. So it doesn't matter where I am. I can go to, again, go into that inbox just to go to a neutral state, click the new POs, and there's my result. So again, we're seeing the values into this here. We're seeing the information that's been put forward. So we're seeing that locked in. So when we save a search, we're going to save whatever we've loaded into there. So whatever, whatever I've done for my search criteria, whatever I've used there for my search operator selectors, this value into here, whatever I've done for my criteria field selectors in here, it's going to save all of that for us. Now let's say instead of this, I want to see all invoices that are owned by somebody else in the system. And again, I'm just pulling ideas here. I'm sure in your organization, you know exactly what kind of documents you're looking for. I'm sure you know what you're looking for on a regular basis, and that's what Save Search is all about. So let's change this in. So we're going to look for invoices, and this time we're going to go to person, and we're going to say owned by me, and we're going to ask for the ones that are not owned by me. And instead of the creation date, because we know we're not going to get a value for that, I just want to see all invoices that are not owned by Chris, and that, again, we're going to use that workflow status. We'll use the approval status and equals not submitted for approval and search. Okay, again, no search results. Let's see, do I have any that are in the system that have been approved? Nope, looks like no search results there either. I appear to be finding options here that are completely valid within that. Apparently I'm the owner of all of them. Okay, so let's change this then, just again to make this a bit more interesting. Let's go to owned by somebody else, and we're going to say equals, and let's choose Chris, and let's say the ones that have not been submitted for approval. So now we're going to do our search. So there's our documents that are owned by Chris that have not been submitted for approval. So these are invoices that are wanting in the system. Now in this case, maybe we want to be able to choose for different users. So I want to choose a different user from my list. So instead of this being equals, I'm going to change this. So it's still on owned by me. So let's change that to person, owned by somebody else. And then we're going to choose Chris out of the list here. And I've just done that. We're going to run that search again. So again, same set of results. I've effectively done the same thing I did before, only now I've got a drop-down list of all my users. So let's take advantage of that. We're going to save this as a save search. And this time, instead of making it an empty search where all the fields are empty, I'm going to make it a quick search. Now what quick search lets me do is choose one of the conditions to make blank. And we're going to choose owned by somebody else. So what this means is that when this comes up, I'll be able to run this search once I choose my one selector that I have within this. So that's enough for me to be able to make this into a quick search. And a quick search is a much more compact view. So again, we're going to go ahead and save this. And it's now going, oops, sorry, I got to put a name into this. My mistake, going too quick. So we're going to call this whoops, try to spell this right, invoices by owner. There we go. So now we've got invoices by owner, and we're ready to add that in. By the way, you notice I'm putting a space in the front of these in case you notice. I want this at the top of my list so that I don't have to hunt for it in my other existing save searches. So I'm doing that to sort of push it up to the top of my list. So there's, again, invoices by owner. Notice that it's blue. That blue tells you that it's a quick search. There's no indicator onto these for an empty search because we treat an empty search just like any other quick search. But in this case, it's blue because it's done this as a quick search, and it's given me a drop-down list of the different values that I can pull here. So now I can say, show me all the ones that are owned by the system administrator, and I can run that search, and there's no results. Or I can come through and say, does Andy own any of these? Nope, Andy doesn't own any. That's fine. Again, it's just a demo system. I'm just trying to show some of the basic functionality here. So again, we've got a quick search that's been built into the system, and because it's blue, we can tell what it is. So this also lets me do things like search for, I'm looking for non-disclosure agreements, and I'm looking for the ones that have been not submitted for approval, and I run the search, and there it is. Now, if I click the advanced button over here, it shows me the mechanics underneath. So in that case, I was looking for in the legal section for NDA contracts, and then I'm changing the approval status based on what I want those to be. That, in a nutshell, is the advantage of the quick search. It allows me to jump into these really quickly and execute those searches without having to think any further of them. You can have virtually as many of these as is practical for you. I often don't like going more than a screen, but nobody's saying you can't do that. If you like scrolling, you can absolutely have as many of these searches into here as you want. And because they're yours, you can modify them, you can adjust them. Once you've run a search such as this, you can then go in and update that search with the Save As Save Search button. So you can bring those results back for you if you want. Now, we can also go further with this, and that we can also make this a public save search. So we can introduce this to other users too. And you can see some of the generic ones I've done over here, such as approved NDAs or policy documents or workflow sign-offs. I have a bunch of different processes that I've built into this for a save search. So I can take any of these because I'm an administrator, and I can modify this. So I right-click on the save search, go into the properties, whoops, we're going to go into the properties, there we are. And now we can make this a public save search. Now watch what happened there. Keep your eyes over here. I click on public save search, security opens up. So instead of giving this to everybody, I want only the people who are using POs. So I'm going to choose my different accounting groups. And then I can scroll down through this and I can say, well, who else needs to see these? Well, potentially my sales team is going to need this. So we can choose any of those that make sense. So, and I hit shift there by accident, which is what happens when I'm rushing. So let me hold control again so I can choose these, and we're going to add those groups and then scroll down and go to sales and add that group. There we go. And now I can say okay. So that moves it over here from the My Save Searches, which I can now minimize, and we're going to go to the PO search. And there it is, ready for me to execute by any other user. Now, I need to run this search in order to make it valid. So let's just quickly do that same search again. And now we're going to go Save As Save Search, and I'm going to modify this search. So I'm going to, again, choose to overwrite this, and I'm going to make this a quick search with a single condition because it's a text box. And this lets me exploit another function of FileHold. This is a very cool trick. So we're going to say okay to this. So, oops, need to add a new save search. Sorry, it wouldn't let me overwrite because I'm changing it to a quick search, and so we're going to call this quick PO just to make it simple for me to find it later on. And we're going to say okay, and there it's a personal save search. I didn't make it a public search, and that's okay. So now I'm going to go back into my inbox, and we're going to go up to our search bar over here. Now, if you remember our last session, I was mentioning that this is usually related to where you're searching. So if I'm down in my library somewhere, it's going to remember where I am. I can open up this other side over here, and I see more than just the ad hoc search, which is the standard mode that it's in. I can also execute a quick search, and sure enough, we've got our quick PO there. And you'll notice the icon changes. So I'm going to go back to ad hoc, and you can see it's a simple magnifying glass. And when I go to the quick PO, it goes to the quick search mode. And now I can do that same search I did before, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and it should give me the values that I'm looking for into here. So I think this is a number field, and number fields often don't agree with that. So that, again, it's designed for a text-only field, and I'm not using a text-only field. So let's try doing a different kind of search. I'm going to come back over into my basic search mode. So we click on search, and I want to look for the word draft just somewhere in the text. And now we're going to go save as save search, and we're going to say I want to see, this is a draft search, and I'm going to make this a public search, and we're going to make this a quick search. So again, we've put all of our values into that, and we're going to say OK. And now we're going to see draft appear over here. So now I should be able to come up top here and type in the word draft, which is, I know the word I'm looking for, but again, it's going to keep this empty. We'll go into our quick search condition. We're going to look for draft. There it is. Enter. And it's run that quick search for me and brought all those results back. So quick search can also be executed from up here, or I could just put this back to an ad hoc search if I ever wanted to. So it's a way to very quickly get into those quick searches to be able to preload them for you. Now remember that a quick search is going to be one term out of many. What I ran here was a one-term search, but I can make only one of those terms a quick search, which allows me to put lots and lots of modifiers into it. So show me all invoices added in the last 30 days that are not owned by me, that have not gone through a workflow process for approval and contain the number, and then you can make that number the quick search condition. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then search all the documents that match that using the quick search trigger for it. All right, that covers our save searches and our quick searches, and now let's expand this out with FastFind. Now FastFind is an optional feature. It's one of our most popular features because it allows you to search FileHold while you're in a third-party software. So in order to use it, you need to be using the desktop application, which I have open here. And then when you're using the desktop application, you need to first of all make sure your FastFind is enabled. So let me show you how to do that. We're going to go up to File. We're going to go to Preferences and Settings, FastFind Preferences. If you don't see this here, then fairly good chance you don't have this license. And if you're interested in looking at this, please let our sales team know at sales@filehold.com, or contact your sales representative and let them know. We'd be interested in talking to you about how we can make this work. So you'll see there's a few options here. First of all, I've got Enable FastFind turned on, and I've also asked to update the FastFind templates when I log into FileHold. And this can be a useful tool for making sure that I'm pulling the right kind of document across and I'm finding the right thing. Now there's a few different search conditions we can use. There's a mouse search, which allows you wherever your mouse goes to be able to grab things. We can enable selection search, so if you have something selected, you can then choose the hotkey for it. We can do a clipboard search, so if something's on the clipboard, you can activate that, or you can even do a screen OCR. So we can use a lasso over top of text that we're seeing on screen and apply an OCR layer to it. Now, you can change these settings if you want to, so it's always possible to be able to get into these and configure them to something that makes sense for your software, because we very much understand that you may have different areas, and we'll show you where that is in a moment. So for now, you can see that I've got both Control-D and Alt-C selected. Let me show you what those two look like. So I'm going to go over to what I would call a non-important website. We're just over here in my FileHold website. So we're not actually in a third-party software, but I want you to understand that this can be used in essentially any Windows software. If you're running Windows on this, we should be able to use FastFind to be able to reach out to it. It's an API call that we're reaching over to there. So you can see I've done a search here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this part over here is text that I've entered. This part is not. This is just what's appearing on screen. So I'm going to select this, and now we're going to execute our search. So I've done a selection there, so I'm going to go Control-D. Now nobody saw me do that because of course I'm working over this side and you can't see my keyboard, but you'll notice in the background it's run a file or metadata search for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 because it was what was highlighted. So I've immediately run that search right from over there. So imagine you were in an accounting software and you wanted to see the a particular invoice number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You hit the FastFind. FileHold steps forward and shows you all of those documents that have that value to it. Now this is a basic file or metadata search, and you will have seen over here under the Preferences and Settings, FastFind Preferences, that I'm using file or metadata. I'm using that basic search for whatever I'm looking for. But of course, I can also use a quick search. So in this case, let's try doing a quick search, and we're going to choose our draft quick search condition, and we're going to say OK to that. So now that I've built that, again, we're going to go back up to our inbox, so I'm in neutral territory, And we're going to go over to our web browser again, and this time we're going to type in the word draft. So let's see what happens. I'm sure it'll give me sporting stuff. No, it's giving me some translations. That's okay. So let's highlight the word draft again, and we're going to go Control D. And there's the draft search executed as a quick search within FileHold. So let's imagine this. You're looking for that invoice number. Rather than having to search the entire system and filter out, you can build your quick search to find just the invoice numbers and then run that from FastFind. So you're immediately finding your results into there. So it's a very easy way to make that search a lot more viable. Let's go back into our FastFind preferences, and we're going to turn this back to file or metadata. So I'm not going to bother with my quick search again. And this time I'm going to enable a clipboard search. So let's go back over to the FileHold website, and let's go back again. Where was that? There it is. So I've got my value over here. This time, I'm going to put this into my clipboard. So Control C, and now I've got that stored, and I'm going to use Alt C, and it's run that FastFind again. So again, it ran that, and it's brought forward that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's found those values that were into it. Now, I didn't update my search mode into that, so I didn't save that before I left, so it actually reran that as a quick search. Now that I've saved that information, let's just confirm that I've done that. So go into the FastFind preferences. Whoops. Again, this is me probably working too quickly. Again, we had that technical snafu at the front, so I'm glad everyone's able to stick with me. So yeah, let's turn this to file or metadata and say OK. Actually, let's do that one more time because I just didn't follow a best practice. When you change a setting into this, apply and then OK. It's always just a better way to do it. All right, so now that I've done that, we're going to go back to over here. We're going to put that into the clipboard, and now we're going to go Alt-D. Whoops, not Alt-D. So I've got nothing highlighted onto here, Alt-C, and there's the quick search. There's the FastFind search for file or metadata that's been run to find all instances of the value that I had in my clipboard. So it's 2 examples of how you can use FastFind to find information, and this is really meant for those in-depth integrations where you have another piece of software where you're looking to use something else and you want to make sure you've got that tight integration between the areas.